Chapter 3. A Whisper on the Static. The hum of the servers filled the silence, a low, anxious thrum that vibrated through the floor. We were frozen, three pairs of eyes locked on the grainy image of the empty boardwalk, the damning time code glowing like a wound in the corner of the screen. 2043-02. The impossible leap. It erased it, Maya whispered, her voice barely audible. It ate the time. Liam shook his head, running a hand through his hair so forcefully I thought he might pull it out. No, that's not how data works. A file gets corrupted. It doesn't just edit itself. He was clinging to the last shreds of rational explanation, but his voice was thin and frayed. My own mind was racing, latching onto the one concrete detail in the swirling chaos. He wasn't looking at me, I said, my voice flat. Through the whole thing, he was looking past me. Into the manor. My lacking eyelid fluttered. A tiny, sickening pulse, right, left, open, open, a metronome counting down to something awful. Where did he go? Maya asked, hugging herself. A guy like that doesn't just vanish into a crowd. Cold certainty settled in my gut. Check the alley cam. Camera 4. If he went anywhere after that glitch, it would be around the back. Liam's fingers, slick with sweat, fumbled on the keyboard. He pulled up the feed for the service alley behind the manor. It was a grimy, narrow space, illuminated by a single, caged bulb, its light casting long, distorted shadows from the dumpsters. He fast-forwarded through the footage, the shadows twitching and dancing as the hours flew by. Okay, I'm at 2043, he announced, his voice tight. For a few seconds, the alley was empty. Then, from the edge of the frame, a figure emerged. It was him. He shuffled into the sickly yellow light, the sequin glove catching the glare with a flash of dirty silver. The jerky, uncoordinated movements were even more pronounced now that we could see his whole body. He looked like a deer that had been hit by a car, but was somehow still walking. He moved directly to the steel employee entrance, a heavy door with a weak code lock. He didn't try the handle. Instead, he pressed his ear against the cold metal, his head tilted at that same unnatural angle, as if listening to a secret conversation on the other side. What is he doing? Maya breathed. He stayed like that for a full minute, unnervingly still. Then he lifted his head and placed a pale, flat palm against the door. He began to push. It wasn't a violent shove. It was a slow, steady pressure on the low-resolution footage. We saw the thick steel door visibly bow inwards. A dark, concave dent formed around his hand, the metal groaning under a force that shouldn't have been possible. Liam let out a choked sound, no fang way. The door held. The mimic stopped pushing, the dent popping back into place with a ripple we couldn't hear but could clearly see. It showed no frustration, no anger. Its expression, as it turned its head, was the same placid, horrifying grin. And then it looked directly into the security camera. It wasn't a glance. It wasn't a coincidence. The dark, empty pits of its eyes found the lens. It knew we were there, or it knew that, someday, someone would be watching. The grin widened, stretching its face into a nightmarish caricature. It raised its gloved hand, wiggled its fingers in a grotesque little wave, and then shuffled back into the darkness, swallowed by the shadows it had emerged from. Liam slammed his fist on the console, making the monitors jump. Okay, that's it. I don't know what that is, but we're calling the cops. And tell them what? I countered, the adrenaline in my veins turning to ice. That a Michael Jackson impersonator dented a steel door with his hand and waved at our security camera? They'll laugh us out of the station. They'll think we're on drugs. I was right, and we all knew it. We were alone with this. The three of us, in this hot, cramped office, were the only ones who knew that the silly boardwalk legend was something real, something strong, and something that desperately wanted to get inside our building. The walk home was a paranoid gauntlet. Every flicker of a neon sign, every burst of laughter from a passing group, sent a jolt of fear through me. The familiar sounds of the boardwalk had become a source of dread. I felt watched, exposed. My apartment, a small third-floor walk-up a few blocks from the shore, had never felt so far away. I locked the deadbolt and leaned against the door, my heart hammering. This was my space, my sanctuary, band posters on the walls, stacks of books on the floor, the smell of my own life. Here, I was in control. The thought was a comfort, but it felt fragile, like a soap bubble. I tried to lose myself in routine. I put the kettle on, the familiar whistle, a temporary balm. I sat on my worn-out sofa, scrolling mindlessly through my phone, trying to drown the images from the security footage in a sea of mummies and vapid updates. Then my phone buzzed with a notification I didn't recognize. Friend request. The name was a jumble of characters, XX he XX. My blood ran cold. It was a joke. It had to be a joke account, some local kid who'd seen the guy and was being an idiot. But then I saw the profile picture. It wasn't a picture of the man. It was one of the corrupted frames from the security footage, the one where his face had filled the entire screen, a screaming, pixelated mask of digital noise and pure malice, his mouth a gaping black square. My thumb hovered over the decline button. My hand was shaking so hard I could barely control it. I pressed it. Request declined. A second later, the phone buzzed again. The same request. XX, he XX wants to be your friend. I hit decline again, harder this time. Buzz. It was back. I spanned the button. Decline, decline, decline. It was like trying to swat a fly that kept landing on the same spot. He wasn't asking. He was demanding. Then, a new notification, a direct message, from the same account. My breath caught in my throat. I couldn't stop myself. I had to know. I opened it. There was no text. It was a unscanned audio file. With trembling fingers, I pressed play. A low-quality, tinny sound filled the silence of my apartment, the sound of a wet, breathy whisper. Hee. It was a sound he'd made against the glass of my booth. I dropped the phone onto the sofa cushions as if it were burning hot. It buzzed again. Another audio file. I didn't have to play it. I could feel the sound vibrating through the cushions. The high-pitched, inhuman whoa-whoa. Then a text message. A string of them, one after another. The notifications coming so fast my phone was vibrating continuously on the couch. Let me in. Let me in. What's his name? The old man. Let me in. The kettle began to shriek on the stove, the high-pitched whistle blending with the phantom screams in my head. I scrambled off the sofa, backing away from the phone as if it were a venomous snake. Its screen lit up the darkening room, a malevolent blue glow. It was a beacon, a portal. He had followed me. He wasn't just outside the manor anymore. He had found a new door, and it was in the palm of my hand. The horror was no longer confined to my job, to a place of manufactured screams and rubber bats. It had crossed the threshold. It was in my home. It was in my pocket, and it was whispering to me in the dark.